Hello, this is a very quick look at weather route, Optimum sailboat routing computations performed by the popular PC program Expedition, used by racing sailors and cruisers around the world. So this is just very quick. There's a lot of details to learn about to do the best job at this, and it's important to review sections of our textbook, Modern Marine Weather, about the cautions we must take. That's in the back of the book. There's a large section on it. The other thing is there's several books by Will Oxley on the use of Expedition, and they're all linked at the Expedition website. So again, this is just a very quick look, and then we will have a little bit more detail later on. So here we start out, and we want to, first of all, I guess we're going to do several examples, maybe from up here to Hawaii and from LA to Hawaii, with a Cal 40 and a Transpac 52 to look at that. But the main thing in here, this is an introduction for our students taking a marine weather course, just to see what it looks like, and to see what the process looks like and what the results look like. So you would start out, we need to have weather for the region. So here you would go into weather data, and let's say you're getting sail docs data, and then you would draw a box, and then you would go here, pick the winds that you want, and then you say get the grid file. If I just get I don't know if that's going to actually show up. Yeah, I'll get the grid file. Okay, so it looks like that. But this is winter time, and if we did any routing here, it's just going to be so strange because it's not the time you'd sail across here. So we're not going to use this data. I'm instead going to use some data back from July, and I just got some old reanalyzed data. It's like archived data, but a little better than the actual forecast data, but it's archived data for 16 days starting in July 4th. So we would load that data back here. I would get rid of this one that we just downloaded in February and go back to this reanalyzed data here, and we'll use that. So that's the data here, and if we look at the weather, you see we can step through this. It's every 6 hours. It's every 6 hours, and we have the data. And you see that's a much more, I didn't step through the other data, but this is a much more typical summertime pattern. And so this is what we're going to use. And now, so we've got the data, and now we need to couple things. We need to choose a boat, and that would be sailing. And let's say we just, for the time being, let's just choose here's the polar diagrams, and this is set up for this is a Cal 40, and this is the polar diagram, and a reminder of this means that if the wind speed is 10 knots and the true wind angle is 60 degrees, the boat should be going 6.65 knots. Now, if it's not doing that, then this is a whole key factor. This data must be correct. If this data is not correct, then you will get wrong results in the routing. So it's fundamental. One of the things that makes Expedition a very popular program is it has lots of ways to store your actual performance as you sail, day in and day out. As you sail, you accumulate the data in logs, and from that data you can create active polar diagrams. And as you see here, you can have all sorts of polar diagrams for different conditions, switch conditions and so on. But it's very important that you know that this blue line in this program marks the optimum sailing angles for these different wind speeds, like downwind and so forth. So that's the one we're going to use, or we're going to use that. This is a Cal 40. The other one we're going to use would be a Transpac 52, which looks like this. So you see dramatically different performance of these two vessels. And right now we have a Transpac. That's fine. Transpac 52. And so, we've got the boat, that's that set up. And there's there's a lot of information in the program. That's why these books by Will are useful for getting started. And then there is a long help file that goes with this. with the whole program. Not just the routing, again, is just one aspect of this racer's favorite program. Okay, but then we need to make a mark that we're going to start, and you could just like right click. Well, no, I better do it in the wind if I'm going to do it. Let's say I go right click and ping a mark here. That's mark 0. And then I can right click it and give it a name, and then I go over here and ping a mark, and that's a mark 1 and mark 0. Okay, that's fine. And then I can go then to my marks catalog, and then here, and then I'm actually gonna make a new one. This is just sample. Okay, that's my sample route, and these are things I've pinged. And let's go from 1 to 2, or 1 to 0, and let's make 1 active. That means that's where we're going to start. So that's how you're setting that up, and there's there to there. And then we have to then set a start time. So we would go start. That's actually a different kind of start. Optimal. Well, let me go here. Optimize start time. I want to start all the ones that we're doing on the starting day of the data, which is July 4th, 6 Zulu. That's correct. And now take a look here. Again, these are, we can't, in this introduction, we can't look at all the details, but you can slow this video down and read over all these various options that you have to set up when you're choosing your optimum route. Subtle, important points. Even ways you can scale. If you know you're not sailing your polar, you can scale it down. Say 90% of my polar. Or if the winds are forecasted and they're only 90% of what they say, or they're 110%, you can scale all the winds in the model forecast or rotate them. That's a nice feature of this program that others don't have. You can actually rotate the winds and so forth. And we can also add ocean currents and things like that. And we're going to come back later and do some routing, local routing, in around these islands and so forth in here, route in here. Then you can add currents. Even this program will let you add tidal currents and so forth. Okay, so that's that, and we're doing that. Let's see if I can just run that. Optimum results, run, optimize, settings, optimize. And then it's optimized. It's calculating the best route from here to here, starting at that day with whatever. I think we chose a Transpac 52, and then it will do that. Okay, so it's computed that route, and there is the result. Now this is just I'm grabbing them. Okay. And then see, if you go to weather, then you can start at the start and then step through every 6 hours. The data we have is just every 6 hours. And then you can step through and see the conditions at the boat at each time. And this is a position, this is the route then you would navigate if you're following, if you were here and wanted to go here. And then we can look at that. You go to optimize results, and that is the one we just did down here. Let me make that one green, say. Okay, because these are the 4 I want to come back and look at. So there you are, and then you come back to results, and then you can click that, and cancel, maybe click this. Okay, and there you see all the specs of what speed you were doing at what time, whether you're port or starboard, and so forth. So that's that. So that's the way that works. Those are the steps you do, and that's what it looks like. And then again, you can, once you're looking at this, you can export it as a GPX. You can, highlight. Well, I keep hitting the wrong one here. Once you can go to this one and then hit it, export it. Okay, but let me get rid of that because that's not results here, and I want to delete that one. Delete. Okay, and these are the 4. Okay, now let's look at these. I'm going to turn these 4 on. I don't like that spinning wheel. I'm on a I'm on a virtual machine. Let me go back to that data. results. I want to draw all these routes. Okay. Oh, good. It drew them. And for the time being, let me shut off the isochrones, which I would go here, settings. Maybe I can do it this way. Okay. All right. And so that just shows you. Okay, so let me just see what we have, and then we'll compare. I'm running these same 4 routes with 2 or 3 solutions. I've run it. And then I will compare them to LuckGrib, which is, I will compare LuckGrib and QTVLM and OpenCPN and a couple and others, time 0. Compare them to the what's considered the standard here, Expedition. And so here we've got the blue ones are the Cal 40s, and the red are the Transpac 50. Okay, and then let's see, we would go to weather, and then I can step through. Let's get back to the start. And now each boat's going through the same wind pattern with their respective polar diagram. Now, forward, this is an hour, so an hour is really small, but this is every data point in your wind file, which is our data. This reanalyzed data is every 6 hours only. So you see here these boats marching their way down here. Now, I think it turns out that the Cal 40 starting up here gets to Hawaii faster than a Cal 40 starting down here. And that's because it gets hit with some real light, confusing air in the beginning that makes this very slow. Okay, so that's the way. Then you can study what's going on, and you watch this. All right, so that's the way that looks. I want to look at one other detail here. I keep grabbing the wrong button. I'm running 2 or 3 different programs, and I forget how to control them. Okay, let me go back to the display, optimal results, and I want to look at just this one, say. Yeah, just the Cal. Let's look at just this guy as an example. This is the Cal 40 starting out. This is like Vic Maui race, frankly. And let's go to weather data and go back to the weather, and go back to the beginning, and then start stepping through. And this, I want to illustrate a point that's brought up by Stan Honey in many of his lectures and so forth, lectures and videos and so forth. And we repeat his advice or insights in our book Modern Marine Weather when we discuss this. But one of the many cautions, we list 10 or 15 of them in the book that you have to think about, is that this is doing a mathematical solution. It's just mathematics, and it's asking you for the optimum route. And if you ask that same program the optimum way to get around the Grand Canyon, this is his example, it would tell you walk right on the edge, right along the edge of the Grand Canyon is the shortest, fastest way to get around it. But a real person a real person would not go around the Grand Canyon right on the edge of the Grand Canyon. And likewise, a real sailboat, even though the optimum route may take you right in skimming along this high, is not going to be necessarily the right way. It may get you too close to the high. You see, you have to step through this and look at it and think about it, some. But that's something to think about. And you'd have to look in your examples and just keep that in mind. And there's other cautions to keep in mind as well. But let me also say something else. We also had guidelines back in I made a lot of guidelines when I used to sail this race a lot, about how to go around the high. And we would say stay like 2 isobars off, an isobar meaning 4 millibars. That would be like coming around somewhere down here. Something like that. Now, that, back in those days, was really, I think, good and sound advice, and it may still be reasonable in some cases. However, these days, we've got a lot more tools to work with. We can look at ship reports, we can look at the ASCAT satellite data, which, in passing, I have to note, a little timely note here, the ASCAT data, which Expedition is one of the one of the only 2 programs I know that will actually show that data live as GRIB files. That data is not available right now. But normally we could overlay the GRIB files and the ASCAT data and the model data and ASCAT, real satellite wind measurements, and then decide which model's right. And in fact, if there's wind in here, if there's wind in this area or not. Now, one feature, one of the things, again, that makes this program popular is if I go in here to weather data and then turn on the observations, you see this will, and then I can download them and they update automatically. This program goes online. You have to have you have to be connected to with your satellite phone and so forth. But it'll go in and get the latest ship reports. And so now again, keep in mind, this is nonsense. I mean, it's illustrating how it works, but it's nonsense what we're looking at. We're looking at ship reports that are right now, February 11th and February 10th. February 10th, February 11th, at that time, and that time, and that time. But this is data. We're doing a sample back from July of 2010. So, but it just shows you have all these tools to help you evaluate the model. And then there's other things. There's reverse. You have to read the instructions and the manuals and the books on this. There's reverse isochrones, and there's various ways to analyze these numeric solutions to decide if it's right. But you'll see from the comparison that we're slowly doing with multiple programs that if you are in fact sailing your polar diagram as you say you are, and if those winds are indeed what they say they are, right? If that's true, then these computer programs are indeed telling you the right way to go, the fastest, most efficient way to go. But everything has to be right. Okay, and let me just see anything. We've got the solution tables. Did I show the solution tables? Let me, just in case I didn't, let me go in optimal results, and then you can look at this. And then I think I did show you this. It shows you the apparent wind and so forth at each step along the route. And your job when you're underway now, of course, you don't run this program at the dock and get 16 days of GFS and route your route and put it in your GPS and go. You can't do that. Things change, and you get new data every 6 hours. And navigators they're using this technology are typically running this route not just every 6 hours when they get new data, but they're running it maybe every few hours. A competitive race boat is maybe running the thing every few hours, or whenever they see their own wind change, they'll run the model again and scale it with the winds they're observing right now compared to what the model says the winds should be. So it's an ongoing, active process, but it's going to be helpful, and it's definitely it's a direction of modern marine weather of using these tools.